Hey guys, there's a lot of controversy recently about the first strike round, which is the paintball sniper projectile I use in my videos. And there are a few paintball videos in the community claiming that these first strike rounds are unsafe and dangerous to use. Now I know a lot of players are also a little concerned and just really don't know if they are safe or not. So a few friends of mine in USA wanted to do a few unofficial tests to showcase exactly what a first strike round does to a mask, netting and skin at close range using varied feet per second. It's a long video but very informative and hopefully will give people a better understanding on the first strike round and what it's capable of. Thank you.
Anthony. We're here from ODSC and we're at the world famous SC Village Paintball Park. The purpose of this video today is to show you what can happen when first strike rounds are not used properly. There's a lot of misinformation out there predicated on videos that are meant to sway the consumer's idea of what the rounds are and how safe they are. We're here to dispel some of those rumors. In doing so, we will be fully transparent and make everything in terms of what we show you common sense. Now, we must be transparent also in our own inherent bias, as we are sponsored by MagFed Pro Shop and First Strike. So again, it is not our intention to confuse you. It is our intention to be as clear and concise as possible, as opposed to some of the other videos that you have seen. Some other videos have been shown by people who are representatives in the insurance industry or the paintball testing industry, and we believe that if someone has inherent bias, they should be upfront about it. So without further ado, we're going to get into some tests where you're going to see how first strike rounds and paintballs are used in terms of netting, as well as what they can do to masks. And we plan to show you how that's going to be utilized using the proper chrono speed and velocity of a first strike round. In this first test, we're going to shoot a first strike round at that net right there. Show them the net, which is hung at field standard. Unlike the video you saw earlier from that other party, this net is not pulled tight. It is hanging the way it's supposed to be per ASTM standards. So, with that being said, we're going to shoot one first strike round at the net while Anthony chronos. Okay? So, let's go ahead and see what we find.
At 15 feet.
At 15 feet, as you can see, there's the line. We've marked it off 15 feet.
Stay this way. Okay. Stay this way.
Oh, no.
Please.
All right. The muzzle is at 15 feet.
287 feet per second.
As you can see, the round bounced right off. So now we're at 287. We're going to watch the net. We'll let it hang loose. The net is hanging loose. Huh. Bounced right off.
Didn't even break.
Didn't even break.
282 feet per second.
283. Round did not break. It bounced right off. .283. So, what we see here, within the field limit of 285 feet per second, the rounds are bouncing right off. Next, our wonderful referee is going to pull the net tight, the way you saw it in the video. Now granted, it won't be nearly as tight as the Wade net in the video. However, we're going to take a look at that as well. The net is being pulled right tight. I'm going to aim right at my bumper at a tight net. Huh, bounced right off. I'm going to aim a little closer. Your hand's going to be okay, sir. Bounced right off. Bounced right off. 283. Bounced right off. So, as you can see, first strike rounds do not go through standard field netting.
At field velocity.
At field velocity, using a bolt action rifle designed for first strike rounds. every single round bounced right off. Did you see anything go through, sir? We're clear? We're clear. On to the next. So, actually, when we pulled the net tighter on the first round, it went through the net when it was pulled tight and bounced off the second
net, the loose net, it didn't pass through. It was a tightly pulled net. It passed through.
Yes.
Still didn't break. Passed
Still
through.
did not break, bounced off the support net behind it when it was pulled tight. But as you can see, these are all up to standard where they are hanging loose.
All right, on test 2, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to use this T15. We're going to rapid fire about 7 or 8 shots into the net with it loose to see if the first strikes will pass through, okay? And then to test against a tightly pulled net, which they shouldn't be anyways, we're going to rapid fire another 7 or 8 rounds, same amount into the netting, and see if they pass through from 15 feet as well. 280 feet per second bounce.
280. So we're at 280 right now. Okay? So, without further ado, let's go rapid fire.
Okay.
Those shots were all under 284 feet per second, rapid fire.
2 pass through.
2 pass through.
Ready? All right, so what happened on this other test, we try to keep them in a tight pattern to kind of show putting stress on one area of the net. And at 15 feet, firing directly, intentionally at a net, we had, after about 6 of them hit, we did have 2 pass through. But the second netting behind it, they did not pass through. They hit. So if you come in here, come in closer, you can see we did about 6 into them. This is one that dented it, but did not pass through. But it did put pressure on these ones, so this one passed through. This one passed through right here.
So as you get closer, you can see the mesh of these nets. If something is to puncture it, naturally it's going to get loose. The more concentrated area, or the more concentrated pressure on this area, you're going to see it get loose. So if someone's standing 15 feet away from a net, firing on the same exact location, there is a chance it may pass through.
And to double check that, we're going to try with regular paint as well to show that it'll probably do the same thing.
Exactly.
All right, for the third test, what we're going to do is we're going to take regular standard round ball out of the T15, shooting at about like 283, 285 feet per second, which is field level. We're going to fire with the loose net directly into the mesh, 5 or 6 rounds, and see if they pass through. And then we're going to pull the net tight and see if the round ball passes through on the tight netting as well.
Cool. Take another shot. So right now we're at 265 feet per second.
Okay, so let me check. So we had 15 feet, one of the rounds did damage to the net, didn't pass through, but it bent the net. So concentrated fire here as well is going to probably break through the net if we do it a couple more times.
At 265 feet per second with month-old Vulcan paint.
Rapid fire into the netting, see if it passes through. 2 pass, 3 pass. All right, so on that one, if you want to come in on this one. Compromised integrity of the net with round ball, and because it compromised the integrity, we had about 3 of them pass through. One passed through down here, one passed through. The one that compromises integrity was down here. This one, this little dent is not going to compromise integrity down here, but it still passed through. So, tightly pulled net, not a good idea for that exact reason.
And if you look behind the net, you'll see 2 of the paintballs that went through have not broken. They
passed through the first net, they bounced off the second net and did not break.
Paintballs at 265 feet per second, 15 feet away from the net, did not break and went through when focused in a concentrated area. Right now we're going to test mask impact. So, as you can see, we have 5 masks. From left to right, we have a Vulcan rental mask that has been used several times. Mask lens has never been changed. We have a JT ProFlex with a lens that is roughly 3 months old, but the mask itself is almost 4 years old. Next we have...
That one's a JT as well. That mask has to be at least 10 years old. The lens is still okay on it, but the mask itself is so old that the plastic of the mask mesh or grill is actually cracked in several places.
Next, we have a Wrap 4 Hawkeye mask. That one is cracked at the top where the lens meets the frame. So that one has compromised integrity already at the lens level.
And then the final mask is kind of like a generic mask. That mask had to have been purchased in about 2009. That one actually has a crack mid-lens that goes all the way through. You can actually see a gap in the crack.
Right there.
So compromised integrity.
When there's compromised integrity here, there's a gap right here. So we're going to test all these various masks.
Now, we need to also mention that these two masks, because of the cracks and the deficiency, and this one as well that has cracks in the plastic, would not be allowed on the field. Okay, these are rules that they put. You see how it has a break right here? Break in the face right here, right? Even regular paintball would pass right through. So these ones would not be considered as field safe. Anybody coming to the field with one of these masks would be asked to either purchase another mask or rent one from them.
So, to start out, I'm going to go left to right, 10 feet away from the masks. Loading. I'm going to aim this right for the crack. Let's go take a look. Mask number 1, Vulcan Tactical Rental Mask. On the inside, you can see a little bit of splatter on the bottom of the visor due to the impact, but the inside,
Clean and safe.
Clean and safe, no compromise. Next mask, my old trusty ProFlex. Right and dead eye. Inside, clean as a whistle. Here is the cracked JT mask. On the outside, you can see the splatter. Inside, nothing. And how old did you say this mask was?
At least 10, almost 15 years old probably.
Now I put it here on purpose. I wanted to put it right here in the seam. Notice that there is already a pre-existing gap right here. Outside is not compromised. Inside did not penetrate the gap. You can see a little bit of a shell inside the gap actually, but nothing actually came through the lens, even on a compromised gap. Lastly,
right on the crack.
Put it right on the crack. Dead center. Let's look on the inside. Is there anything?
No penetration.
No penetration whatsoever. Again, and keep recording just to show that I didn't change my velocity in between rounds. You're gonna go grab the chrono. Next, we're going to try a different marker.
For the next test, just for purposes of testing velocity, we're going to be using an FN303, which is not meant for paintball. This is not modified. This did a tour in Afghanistan as a riot control gun. Okay, it's going to shoot well above the minimum legal limit for the fields. So we're going to chrono it first, just to show you guys how fast it actually fires with first strikes. And then we're going to take a shot at each of the same masks.
And if I'm not mistaken, this Radar X chrono does not give a reading above 400 feet per second, if I'm correct on that. So if it says 0 or nothing, that means it's above 400 feet per second.
Okay, safety off. Fire it into the lid. You ready? Fire. Over 400.
0. That's over 400. So next, he's going to take a shot at each of the masks at 10 feet away at 400 feet per second.
Too high. Break.
So at above 400 feet per second, at a range that we couldn't even clock with the Radar X hand chrono, he hit it right here in the mask. On the inside, 0 penetration. You don't even see a splat or anything coming above the visor on this one. You can see the old green rounds, but not the white round he was using. Next, JT ProFlex. Put a round right here on the lens. Inside, at 10 feet away, at over 400 feet per second, it was not compromised. Even taking the paint off, not even a scratch. Not even a scratch. 400 feet per second, 10 feet away. Next, a 10-year-old JT.
2 spots on it. Up here where it was already compromised, there's already a crack up here. You see there's a crack that's pre-existing, but that's not where it hit.
Okay, now on the lens itself, no crack. Inside, clean. Again, as you saw earlier, this has a pre-existing gap due to the lens being broken and not being able to connect, okay? 400 feet per second. No crack on the outside at 400 feet. However, we do see a reverberation and a crack on the inside right here. Now again, we stress the point that this was already a broken mask in terms of this connection right here in the gap. At 400 feet per second, at 10 feet away, you do see a secondary crack on the inside, but not on the outside. Again, this is a 4-year-old mask that has already been broken.
Okay, on the last one, which is, the brand is Extreme Rage, it's the generic one, right? There was already a pre-existing crack that we've hit already twice. If you see, I hit right next to the crack itself, and it did crack the lens. It cracked the lens even more, but it didn't penetrate through. So you look on this side here, there's a little bit of paint from where it spread through the crack, but the round itself didn't penetrate through. Now this was obviously the reason why fields do not allow people with cracks in their lenses to actually play with that lens, and it's for a very good reason. The regular one at 275, 280 feet per second did not penetrate right on the crack, but with increased stress at over 400 feet per second, you can see it did break the lens even more. So that's the reason why, regardless of whether or not it was a paintball or a first strike round, this is why it's not safe to wear these masks, but it did protect that person. It did not pass actually through the mask itself.
And it is also recommended that after you've taken considerable damage or force to your lens that you change it from time to time anyways, even if there's not a crack. So again, we're gonna actually try one more test. We're here with our ref Jack. Say hi to the people, Jack.
How you doing, guys?
And right now we are gonna put one first strike round at a gun that was just chronoed at 274 feet per second. We have our volunteer, Mr. Robert. Say hi, Robert. Robert has been brave enough to volunteer his services. I'm gonna put a shot right on his back. He's wearing a t-shirt. Let's see what happens. Oops. That first round was not chambered. Robert, if you could stand right there for the people. If you look, there is no tear in his shirt that is hanging loose. Right here, you see a nice little welt. So Robert, you can stand right there. We're gonna go get the Vulcan paint.
There's a full mag right there.
Was it here?
Yeah.
Now, again, we're at 15 feet away. Now we're using a T15 that was chronoed at 285 feet per second. This is now shooting Vulcan Redemption, which was chronoed at 265 for round ball. He is such a champ. Good rub, Robert. As you can see, also leaves welts right here on his back. Thank you, Robert.
Good sport.
So right now we are with our 2 test subjects who are kind enough to let themselves get shot with, in his case, first strike and round ball paint. And then from Anthony's perspective, at 10 feet away, as opposed to 15, bare skin with paint at 265 feet per second. Now, Robert, you got shot by first strikes and paintballs. Would you be able to tell a difference? Were you able to understand?
No, I couldn't even tell a difference.
Say it louder for the beautiful people.
I couldn't tell a difference. Playing, MagFed, you come in already expecting the hits, so it doesn't feel different.
Now, are you currently sponsored by First Strike or MagFed Pro Shop?
MagFed Pro Shop.
MagFed Pro Shop. Okay. So at this point, we all have a vested interest to see the paintball
Community.
the paintball community galvanized behind proper safety. Now, it is also imperative that we mention when you are going to shoot first strikes or regular paintballs that you comply within the field limit. So if you're shooting paintballs, most fields have a limit. Here at SC Village is 285 feet per second. If you were to be using paint and then switch a mag of first strikes in there, due to the exit velocity, the round will be coming faster out of the barrel. So therefore, as players, it is imperative that we as a community police each other and make sure that we are all chronoing with first strike rounds
When we use them.
when we use them. That if someone's going to chrono with round paint only, that we make an example of that. Because the last thing we want is for people to misconstrue facts. Fact is, a first strike round sustains its trajectory and velocity longer than a spherical paintball. So we're here with Robert, who took a shot at 280 feet per second, 274 to 280 with first strike. Anthony, could you point out the first strike hit?
This is the first strike hit.
Right there at 15 feet away.
And 3 shots with regular round ball.
3 shots with paint at 265 feet per second from 15 feet away.
And if you look at them, this one has a small little welt on them. The welts on these ones are actually larger.
Yes, they're very areola-esque, as you can see, that the swelling does span out.
Pepperoni nipple welt marks there.
Thank you, Robert. So again, this was what we intended to do to show the community that you're going to get lacerated regardless when you're talking about a close range. And regardless if you're shooting paint at 265 feet per second or a first strike at under 285 feet per second, when you're shooting out a loose net, it's going to bounce off. When you're shooting at a pulled tight net, it will go through regardless, especially when you're targeting the same area over and over.
And 2 points I want to bring up. One, these aren't lacerations, these are bleeding from impact. So just like getting hit with an airbag from a car, too much of an impact on the skin is going to bleed through the actual skin itself. Those are not lacerations, okay? Secondly, netting is not meant to be a shooting backstop. It's not meant for you to direct rounds at it from close range. This is to catch stray balls from hitting the people who are on the other side for safety purposes, right? So you want to make sure that regardless of what you guys are shooting, round ball, paint, regular paintball, first strikes, the intention of these nettings is not for you to fire into them in the beginning. Right? These are just safety precautions to keep other people safe on the other side.
And lastly, we want to re-emphasize the point about personal responsibility. In anything we do, whether it's driving a car, operating a machine, turning on a stove, there are things that can go wrong if you are not using it however it is supposed to be intended. So that being said, when you're going out and playing a game of paintball, regardless of what type you're shooting, even if it's airsoft, we encourage people to follow the park's rules, regardless of what you feel about it. You follow the park's rules and all the safety protocols.
You're a guest in their house and you're there to have fun, not to hurt people.